Hi, I'm Whitney Espich, the CEO of the MIT Alumni Association, and I hope you enjoy this digital production created for alumni and friends like you.
Hello, MIT alumni volunteers. And depending on where you are logging in from, good afternoon, or good morning, or good evening to some of you. My name is Whitney Espich, and I am honored to serve as Chief Executive Officer of the MIT Alumni Association. This marks the second year of our holding the Alumni Leadership Conference online. And for those of you who attended last year's plenary session, you'll remember my expressing the desire that we could all be meeting on MIT's campus in 250 as in years past. Well, the stars did not align for that this year due to the safety and health challenges created by the pandemic. Even so, there's a silver lining in that more of our stellar volunteers were able to attend last year than ever before, thanks to the ability for you all to join us from your homes and offices around the globe. As we look ahead to next year and again hope for an in-person ALC, please know that we are thinking ahead to a hybrid event format that will enable us to sustain the momentum of increased engagement created by this virtual opportunity. In the meantime, I hope that you are enjoying the 2021 ALC. Thanks to all who participated this summer and early fall in our well-attended ALC Training Academy series throughout the summer and benefited from the valuable skill building and best practice sharing sessions. And I also trust that you found yesterday's keynote address with MIT Corporation Chair and fellow alumna volunteer, Diane Green, as well as the Dean's panel, as inspiring and MIT pride building as I did. Finally, let's give a virtual round of applause to all of this year's Leadership Award recipients who were deservedly celebrated last night during the online ceremony yesterday. I would now like to welcome two award-winning alumni volunteers themselves, immediate past association president Charlene Capsonell and this year's president Annalisa Weigel for a special Alumni Association tradition.
Thank you, Whitney, and greetings, fellow volunteers. Last year, I had the singular honor of participating virtually in the ceremonial passing of the gavel from past to current association president rather than in person. At least I thought it was singular, but we find ourselves still in Zoom land. Even so, I can attest that no matter where it happens, it is a special honor that filled me with pride. And now I'm equally honored to pass along the gavel to my amazingly dedicated, dynamic, and talented successor, Annalisa Weigel, the 127th president of the MIT Alumni Association.
Thank you, Charlene. Thank you, Whitney. And to all of you, my volunteer peers around the world, I am both thrilled and humbled to be working alongside you all as a volunteer in service to our Alumni Association's strategic vision to engage and inspire the global MIT community to make a better world. It is no understatement to say that we have our work cut out for us, what with all of the profound challenges we face in society today. Yet, if there is one thing that MIT people don't shy away from, it is tackling the toughest problems. I will share a bit more about how we might do that together in the year to come, but first, I would like to pause and reflect on the incredible year that was. First, a tremendous thank you to Charlene for her incredible leadership last year, and to our fellow directors on the board, and to Whitney and the association staff and all their valued partners across advancement, and of course, to all our volunteers for a fiscal year 2021 that was greatly successful against all odds. It was our first full year since the pandemic, and there were several moments to take pride in. Specifically, the Institute saw 17,996 alumni, students, and friends contribute their time and talents as volunteers, including most all of us in this session today, in service to helping the MIT community make a better world. So thank you very much. As Whitney noted, last year's virtual ALC enabled us to welcome more of you than ever before, with a record 1,994 attendees. Also in the record-breaking category, Tech Reunions brought together more than 5,000 registrants to celebrate their class milestones and the MIT community. Fundraising also held strong, with MIT Annual Giving raising $89.8 million in FY21 from 36,165 donors, the highest donor total on record, including the best dollar total for cumulative gifts of $100,000 and below during the MIT Campaign for a Better World. This included $1.1 million Giving Tuesday, $44 million raised by the reunion class giving committees, and the MIT 24-Hour Challenge, which raised $3.4 million from 7,486 donors in one single day. Special thanks to the 650 volunteers who helped support the challenge, now in its 5th year. In alignment with the Institute's commitment to developing a strategic action plan for diversity, equity, and inclusion, the association launched the MIT Forum for Equity last year, a virtual event series that engaged more than 3,802 alumni and friends in dialogue around social justice, anti-racism, and more. This series complemented the robust DEI-related programming offered through our affinity groups and clubs. There are so many more examples of what we collectively made possible last year, and I wish I could highlight each one because I know that they all took a tremendous amount of collaboration, strategic thinking, hard work, heart, and grit. Those qualities will continue to be well tapped again in the year to come as we look to new initiatives that also hold the power for great optimism and excitement within our community. Before I talk about what's to come, I want to recognize that all of it is rooted in priorities of the Alumni Association Strategic Plan, which was developed in 2018 through a partnership between the board, staff, MIT partners, and volunteers. This fall, we will be launching the MIT Alumni Better World Service Initiative, which some of you may have been hearing about in your various meetings over the last several months. I'm not going to go too deeply into that project, but I will plug the service keynote being held later today at 2:30 p.m. Eastern Time, where you will learn more. So please attend to learn more about this incredible emerging program. I am also excited to share that the longstanding hope for MIT alumni to have a home again on main campus is being realized with the opening of a new, beautiful space on the Infinite Corridor, the MIT Alumni Lounge. Built and designed in collaboration with the Institute and supported with early gifts by alumni donors, this meeting and gathering space will be located at 10100, just steps from Killian Court, and will feature a very cool storytelling digital display that will again honor the contributions and history of MIT's graduates throughout the years. Looking ahead to the spring, tech reunions will be an especially critical moment for the whole MIT community this academic year. First, we're hopeful that we'll be able to invite alumni physically back to campus to observe the meaningful traditions of the senior class becoming alumni at commencement, of Tech Night at the Pops, of Technology Day, and the other signature events of the weekend. At the same time, we have made a commitment, both the Institute centrally as well as the association, to honor those classes who did not get to experience the power and significance of an in-person experience during the COVID era. That means that in addition to this year's class of 2022, we will also be inviting back the classes of 2020 and 2021, now alumni. And as we honor the 50th class of 1972, we will also be celebrating the Cardinal and Gray classes of 71 and 70. The association staff and class volunteer groups are also working together to figure out how we can integrate more virtual opportunities for engagement into the on-site festivities. Now, you'll note that Whitney and I keep on returning to the theme of virtual engagement because we know that offering virtual programming will remain imperative to bringing more and more alumni into the tent. At the same time, virtual engagement, as well as blending in-person and virtual engagement, really is in and of itself a whole new undertaking for the association. For example, it's not like we picked up ALC from an on-site plan and simply put it on the internet. We will need to continue to be thoughtful and innovative in ways that we can add hybrid moments in scalable and successful ways. and we will be looking to alumni for their help and feedback as we continue this journey. We are in a new era in many ways, and so it feels fitting that I end my remarks with another exciting evolution for the association. I get to formally unveil the association's new brand identity. But rather than tell you about it first, I thought I would show you. Roll the video, please.
Our MIT alumni. We are driven by a shared purpose to make a better world through the brilliance of discovery, power of innovation, and a generosity of spirit. Our MIT-ness is who we are. We are fun and quirky, elite but not elitist, inventive and artistic, puzzling, hacking, wondering, exploring, creating, and solving is what we do. This was our student experience. It's who we are today. We strive to take on challenges, local, global, personal, and profound. As MIT alumni, we have an extraordinary community to call on and contribute for the rest of our lives. On campus or off, our work is never done. And together, our impact and possibility are infinite. We are MIT alumni.
And there you have it, our dynamic and beautiful new visual presentation of the MIT alumni experience. This new mark and its surrounding look and feel were created in partnership with premier design firm Pentagram and the association's strategic communications and marketing team, and was developed in alignment with key input provided by board and volunteer leaders, institute stakeholders, and the association's senior staff. It accomplishes a rare feat of being both modern and up to the moment, while also representative of the Institute's rich history. And I am happy to report that initial previews with many volunteer focus groups have produced a lot of smiles and nods of recognition. So I will leave you all with where I started, offering my gratitude for all that you do in your various roles as volunteers and for the commitment of time and talent you are making to help engage and inspire the global MIT community to make a better world.
Thank you, Annalisa, but don't go anywhere because we're going to bring you back for a Q&A with your fellow volunteers in just a bit. But first, we will get a special view under the dome from MIT Provost Marty Schmidt. An alum himself with an SM 83 and a PhD 88, Marty shares responsibility with the president, the chancellor, and the academic deans, several of whom you heard from yesterday, for the supervision of the educational and research programs of MIT. He is the chief academic officer of the Institute with responsibility for budgeting and planning of these programs. Marty has served in this role since 2014 and has served on the faculty since 1988. He is the Ray and Maria Stata Professor of Electrical Engineering and Computer Science. Marty, welcome back to Virtual ALC. The floor is yours.
Thank you, Whitney, for that very kind introduction. And hello, everybody. It's really thrilling to be here today with all of you, although I truly wish we were in person since it feels like forever since I've been able to see many of you. Let me start by thanking Whitney. I've had the pleasure of working with Whitney on many efforts, and I have to tell you, I'm so impressed with her leadership and very much value our partnership over the years to bring together this community in supporting the Institute and its mission. I'd also like to thank Charlene for her service as president of the Alumni Association. Like Whitney, I've had the chance to work with Charlene on many occasions and in many capacities, and I want to thank her for all that she's done to support MIT. And to Annalisa, thank you for assuming the role of Alumni Association president. I'm looking forward to get to know you better, to work with you, and seeing the results of your leadership, especially on the new service initiative. Finally, I want to express my gratitude to all the alumni attending today and to those alumni who dedicate their time to volunteer on behalf of the Institute. We and I are very fortunate to have the commitments that you've made to MIT. Today, I wanted to provide you with an update on the Institute as we enter this new academic year. And I'm going to focus my remarks on the reopening of the campus, the transformation of the campus, particularly the Gateway on Kendall Square, and the culture of innovation that it's driving, Want to make a few remarks about our commitment to sustainability, and then the work we're doing to build a stronger and more inclusive MIT community. So thinking about the return to campus, on September 7th, we welcomed our students, staff, and faculty back to campus. It was a milestone moment 18 months after the pandemic took hold. We took great care in preparing our facilities and developing our COVID testing infrastructure and procedures. We created new processes to welcome visitors back to campus, put in place supports for faculty and students, and worked hard to provide consistent and detailed information to our community about the changes put in place to keep us all safe. While those preparations were not insignificant and some changes have transformed some aspects of our work, our commitment to rigorous study and transformational research are still in place. We have faculty back in the classrooms and postdocs back in the labs. Students are gathering in our libraries and in our outdoor spaces, and the infinite corridor is filled again. Well, nearly. There was significant hesitation and anxiety as we approached the fall, and indeed some of those concerns persist, but they're certainly tempered by the palpable excitement of our students as they return to something that is closer to the normal that they hope to experience at MIT. You know, as I reflect on the pandemic, there are so many challenges that I can think of, but what really jumps out to me is really how people stepped up to help get the Institute through this difficult time. As a chief budget officer of the Institute, financials loomed large for me throughout the pandemic. And some of you may have heard me say this, but you know, in FY20, we experienced about $50 million of unexpected COVID-related expenses. FY21, we experienced another $210 million of unexpected, well, expected at that point, but unbudgeted at some level, COVID-related expenses, and we expect those to continue. I'm proud of what we've done to preserve jobs through the pandemic, to support families with children as best as we could, to invest in the resources needed to deliver a capable and strong education through the pandemic, keeping the campus safe and reopening the campus laboratories. And we're blessed by a strong financial framework that's been established at the Institute over the years, and certainly the support of many of you to get us through this. If you haven't been to campus in a while, you'd be surprised by the changes. In fact, even the members of the community that were away for 18 months and returned in September were surprised, and none more so than by the transformation of Kendall Square. There's now a distinct gateway to MIT on Main Street. There are new landmarks that serve as an anchor to Kendall. No more, I hope, will someone rise out of the Kendall Square T station and ask you, where is MIT? Because when they rise out of the Kendall Square T station, they're going to see a vibrant welcoming center with an innovation headquarters above and flanked by the MIT Museum on the other side. This is an exciting transformation for me because I had a front row seat to this starting in 2008 when I became associate provost of the Institute. And there were musings at the time of what should we do with Kendall Square and the 7 vacant parking lots that defined Kendall Square at some level. And through a deliberate and thoughtful process, we came up with the plan for Kendall Square, but also the renewal of the campus. And so in Kendall Square, we have the new graduate residential tower that's opened. The other spaces I mentioned, the innovation headquarters, the MIT Museum. We've also created some new spaces for commercial entities to be close to campus. And some of those buildings are populated with some of the strongest industrial partnerships we have with Boeing, IBM, Apple, and not far from the campus, transformative biotech enterprises like Moderna. But in addition to what's happened in Kendall Square, as you walk around the campus, you'd find renewal all over the place. New undergraduate residences on Vassar Street, the transformation of the Wright Brothers wind tunnel. Coming out of the ground are the new building for the College of Computing, and very excitedly, a new building for our music program that will sit prominently behind Kendall Square or behind Kresge Auditorium and adjacent to the Z Center. And these aren't just structures, they're convening points. And I can't imagine, particularly with Kendall Square, a more stimulating and productive way to drive innovation than to create the kind of spaces that have been created, but also to bring some of our closest partners closer to campus for interactions. This is what really is going to define MIT as one of the most innovative square miles on the planet around Kendall Square, and that's no accident. As we're talking about innovation, I also want to shift to sustainability. Earlier this year, the Institute announced its climate action plan for the decade. This plan included a wide array of new initiatives and buildings on existing programs to find solutions to this global challenge. The Institute is first leading by example on campus by reducing MIT's own climate impact, uniting and coordinating all of MIT's climate efforts. As part of the plan, MIT committed to a range of sustainability measures, including making a commitment to net zero direct carbon emissions by 2026 and making an array of investments in campus building energy efficiency and renewable energy measures. The Institute will investigate the essential dynamics of global warming and its impact on advocating for increased climate research funds and advocating for science-based climate policies. We aim to develop new research grants and provide more student fellowship opportunities to meet these commitments. Knowing that decarbonization of the world's economy is a complex and long-term challenge, the Institute will tackle focused areas of research, including steel production and heavy transportation. We'll create a new sustainability policy hub for undergraduates and graduate students to interact with policymakers. And we'll also investigate how to address the socioeconomic challenges associated with facing communities in the developing world. And there's more that I know you'll hear from Professor Fernandez, who will speak about sustainability in a later session. But I want to end this conversation about sustainability by also mentioning one very amazing accomplishment on fusion energy. At 6 a.m. on Sunday of Labor Day weekend, a number of us huddled in a laboratory building and watched an extraordinarily exciting moment where the Plasma Science and Fusion Center, coupled with the Commonwealth Fusion Systems startup, demonstrated a record-breaking 200 Tesla magnetic field from a full-scale high-temperature superconducting magnet that had been designed by those teams. This is a key breakthrough to getting to a compact fusion reactor. They started this journey 3 years ago with the commitment to demonstrate the 20 Tesla magnet in 3 years. They delivered on that promise, and their latest promise is in 4 years to have the demonstration reactor completed. This was a transformative moment for the Institute and a very exciting one at that. I'd like to close with some thoughts about how the Institute is working to strengthen its community. The most important thing I would say is the investments we're making in people. And in particular, and some of you may have heard me say this, one of the things that struck me as provost, as I reflected on what we could do to strengthen our community and the climate in our community, is the challenge that our distributed leadership has. That is specifically on the academic side, we hire faculty because we know they'll be great teachers and awesome researchers. But when we ask them to step into leadership roles, we place additional responsibilities on their plate. That is to cultivate and curate welcoming and inclusive communities. And they're not always naturally prepared for that or trained for that. And the investments that we've made over the past year and a half in bringing in professional staff to help assist at the dean level and at the department level, our distributed leadership to be successful in this goal, I think is going to have one of the most transformative impacts in making all of the members of our community successful and contributing to the mission of MIT. As was mentioned earlier, we're developing a strategic plan, but I'm very excited about the steps we've taken already. Before we get to your questions, I do want to encourage you all to see the campus transformation I mentioned earlier. Obviously, we'd love to see it in person, but I know that may take a little bit of time depending upon when you'll have a chance to visit the campus. But you do have a chance to do that virtually following this session by attending the talks on the IHQ and participating in the virtual tour of campus. You'll also have a chance to hear more about our student talent pipeline later in this program if you attend the micro talk on admissions. So with that, let me move us on to the questions.
Marty, thanks so much for that overview of all that's going on at MIT. What a year behind us, and you certainly provided a snapshot of that and offered some optimism for as we look forward. So thank you. All right, alumni, there is a Q&A feature and you can submit some questions. So please do that. And we'll spend, 10 or a little bit more minutes talking with Annalisa and Marty. I've got a couple of questions to just get us started while you send some things in. But first I wanted to say there have been questions about, is the video of the MIT Mark available online yet? No, it's not, but it will be soon. We're doing a rollout, and so watch for it and be a part of spreading that energy and that energy with our alumni community. Very exciting. Okay, I'm going to start with Annalisa just to pick up on the conversation about virtual and in-person. We're all dying to be back together, and at the same time, virtual has provided some tools that are new and useful. Annalisa, what do you think the special sauce, the special piece of being in person is for our alumni and for our engagement moments as a community?
That's a great question, Whitney. And as I've said on other occasions, I really think the best benefit of volunteering with the Alumni Association is getting to work with and be around fellow alums. The MIT community is filled with smart, talented, and motivated individuals who want to make a difference. And it is just simply energizing and inspiring when you get to be around your fellow alums. So whether we're on Zoom or in person, you can really feel the power of the community. When we do finally get together in person, I'm looking forward to seeing my fellow volunteers face to face again, for those unplanned moments to connect with fellow alums in the hallways and to have chance conversations that inspire new ideas. And these things are a really valuable component to the in-person engagement experience for volunteers. So once we can return to those in-person activities, I really think those are going to be some great opportunities. In the meantime, though, I would encourage alums to keep leaning into the communal engagement aspects of virtual engagement so we can keep our community connected and strong until we can resume in-person activities.
Great, thank you for that. And now, Marty, a question to you, just to build a little bit on your pandemic comments. I wonder if you might just say what was one of the surprising silver linings of the pandemic experience, and there were so many unexpected challenges, but which one jumps to mind as to the forefront for you?
Yeah, thanks, Whitney. Well, I guess one thing I would say is that my remarks are somewhat grounded in the conversations I have with fellow provosts. So throughout the pandemic, the groups that I'm associated with, the Ivy Plus and another group of provosts, we actually would meet for 30 minutes once a week through the pandemic. And it was extraordinarily helpful in terms of sharing experiences and learning from each other, and also maybe a little bit of therapy, or maybe a lot of therapy. But it helped me understand sort of what MIT was doing that was perhaps a little bit unique, at least. And what I would point to is the way our distributed leadership at the Institute stepped up. What the pandemic did for us was really present us with the need to make decisions rapidly. And the only way you can do that is by empowering people to make those decisions at a local level. And it didn't allow for the usual consultative processes that inform a lot of the decisions we take on campus. And yet we got through it. And we had to at times acknowledge when we made a mistake and correct for it. But the way in which the community stepped forward in making decisions that were quite consequential and doing them well just was really, really remarkable. And huge compliments to that. The other thing I would say, you said one, but I want to say two. The other one I would point out is our students were amazing. When I look at the challenges that other campuses faced in terms of controlling the virus, maybe because they followed the science, but our students conducted themselves remarkably. And our control of the virus on campus was really quite remarkable. And I'm indebted to the responsible behavior of the students through the pandemic. The unexpected challenge, Delta. We had all sorts of plans and expectations and hopes for a much more return to normal fall. And as the summer rolled on, it became clear that we had to retrench from those plans and rapidly change. And I think it was hard for everyone, hard sort of emotionally because you were hoping for something different, but also hard in terms of just planning all again. And certainly in August, you could see the fatigue in people as they thought, my God, weren't we here last year? And are we here again? We're better now and it feels okay. But I'd say that was, Whitney, probably the unexpected challenge.
Right. Best laid plans, right? That seems to be everybody's experience as we navigate this. Thank you. All right. So alumni are hearing about, and those who have been on campus are noticing all of the developments in Kendall, which are incredible. And so there's a general question about sort of cost of living in Cambridge and Kendall, and that one is to you, Marty. There's a second piece that, Annalisa, I'll give you a moment to think about. That is, looks like it's going to be more expensive for alumni to come back. And so maybe we can take that in two parts. Marty, do you want to talk about town relationships, the Kendall development, that kind of thing?
Yeah, I'm happy to do that, Whitney, and thanks for the question. I think, the cost of housing in the greater Boston area is going up, and that's compounded by the fact that one of the things we observed pre-pandemic, and I'm going to try and be succinct on this, but this is a really important point. One of the things we observed prior to the pandemic is a migration inward. That is, if I just talk about faculty, if you look at where faculty are choosing to live, 30 years ago, people were choosing to live in Lexington and Newton and Wellesley and some of the outer suburbs. We've seen a lot more faculty choosing to live much closer to the physical campus. And it's more expensive in many ways. And so, we're trying to address that as best we can through the things like the faculty mortgage program. But when we talk about graduate students and postdocs, this is an increasing pain point. And that is something that we're taking on intentionally. We made a commitment when we built Kendall to double the amount of housing for graduate students by building the graduate tower there. And also when we committed to the Volpe development, we committed to an additional set of graduate student housing, which will be coming out of the ground on the western end of campus very shortly. But this is something that I think we have to be very intentional about and not just be reactive to the rising cost of housing in our midst and have programs in place to support the community that wants to live nearby.
Great, thank you. Annalisa, the question about visiting Cambridge, it's always been challenging and we try to work it out in partnership, but what are your thoughts?
Sure, that's a great question as well, Whitney. I think one of the silver linings of the pandemic is we have had a forced experiment in understanding how to engage virtually. And what we found is that this has broken down the financial and time barriers for alumni to connect with our community. So I think our alumni can expect going forward for these milestone events like reunions, there will be opportunities of equal value to participate virtually in those major milestones. So it gets rid of that burden of time and financial ability to come and participate. And I'm very excited for all that can bring.
Great, excellent. Yes, a silver lining and more flexibility and different kinds of ways to connect with MIT. All right, well, I think we may be at the last question, which I'm going to aim toward Marty. And Marty, our alumni really are curious about our current students, our alumni of tomorrow. And I wonder if you might just say a few words based on your interactions last year and this year. Just give us a sense of who are the people who will be joining our community next.
Yeah, well, let me talk about it from a close-in perspective and then maybe step back. Close in, a lot of my sense of particularly the undergraduates is informed by serving as a first-year advisor. And so when I looked at the students that I was advising last year, who in the fall, I was largely advising them from their bedrooms, and and then this year we have the new students arriving. It's a generation, particularly last year's students. If you think about it, these are students that lost the prom, lost the graduation, had a very unusual summer, and spent their first semester in college in their bedroom, by and large. And what was really heartening was their arrival in January to start the spring semester in person. Fast forward to today, this year's first year students spent a very disrupted senior year in college in many ways, but an equal level of excitement and awe at arriving at MIT. So I think it's hard to know what those years of an unusual start look like in the rearview mirror as they graduate from MIT. But that's what I saw personally. If I step back from that, Whitney, what strikes me about the students today, both undergraduate and graduate, is a palpable impatience. An impatience to see the Institute move to a better place in terms of being a welcoming community, and impatience towards addressing the climate concerns of the globe. And I think at times it's challenging for the administration and the rest of the community to respond appropriately to that impatience. But I think that impatience helps drive action in a very positive way.
Those are great observations. And I wouldn't be surprised if many in our alumni audience are thinking, well, they're just like us. We're impatient for progress and solving and all of the kinds of things that this community's talents and skills can make possible. All right, I lied a little bit. It looks like we have one more question. And this takes us somewhat back to the pandemic. Marty, what has the Institute learned from the pandemic about how to ensure hands-on experience is possible? Hands-on is so important to MIT, and our alumni may not be as well-versed in how we were able to export that during the pandemic. If you'd say a few words.
Yeah, I can try to. I will say it was kind of remarkable to watch in March and April when the pandemic just hit. The innovations that our faculty came up with sort of at the spur of the moment. And I think of some of the mechanical engineering design classes. Over the summer, the faculty put together packages that were delivered to the students that were registered in these classes. And students were making things in their kitchen and in their garage. So I think we got through that. In fact, we had several faculty, perhaps most notably Marty Culpepper, working with EH&S, our Environmental Health and Safety Office, that figured out how to develop guidelines and advice to faculty for how they could export some of the hands-on laboratory experiments and experiences, how they could do that remotely. And it was quite remarkable. But there's nothing like bringing people back to campus. And so I think what we've also focused on is, even in the face of Delta, reopening the labs and some of the hands-on experiences that we value so much. In fact, your question now reminds me, Whitney, that I should do an advertisement. Regulars at ALC may recall that from time to time I would mention the Glass Lab. And I think I should tell you that I believe it's today, and you might need to Google on the MIT homepage, but we opened the Glass Lab and they were able to make all the pumpkins, and they're all over Kresge today, but they're also selling them online. So if you miss your Glass Lab pumpkins, Google MIT Glass Lab, and I'm sure you'll find the webpage where you can contribute to the Glass Lab, but also get a nice pumpkin out of the deal.
That's great. I'm sure that it's reassuring to know that those milestones of the year are still occurring, and that the pumpkins, there won't be a gap in someone's collection of glass pumpkins. That's excellent. Marty and Annalisa, thank you so much for your time. Marty, I know all at the Alumni Association appreciated your words of thanks and partnership at the beginning. I know I certainly did, and please know that we extend them right back to you. It's always been a really close alliance, and I've appreciated your interest in the alumni community and your engagement with the alumni community just consistently over time. So thank you, and thank you for your steady leadership during this pandemic time. We're making great progress and being who we should be as MIT despite all these challenges, thanks to leaders like you. And Annalisa, thank you for your time this morning and for your steady leadership as well as we walk down this bumpy path of the Delta pandemic together. And thanks to all of our alumni for our time together also, and for your energy and commitment to MIT and the full community. All right, so we are now ready to shift to our next session. I'm pleased to introduce a series of micro talks, which will be following up on some of the themes that Marty has raised in this panel. And so you'll get a chance to dive in and talk about things with a bit more focus. In each of these micro sessions, you will hear from an MIT expert on a key institute-related topic, followed by the opportunity for an open dialogue between presenters and attendees for the remainder of the time. In terms of the presenters and topics, just to remind you, we have admissions featuring Stu Schmill from the class of 1986, who is Dean of Admission and Student Financial Services. IHQ, our new innovation headquarters, some of you might call it. It's featuring Tim Maiano, the Program Director for the MIT Innovation Initiative. And then Kendall Square, Sustainability, featuring Professor John Fernandez, as mentioned previously, also an alum from the class of 1985, and Director of the Environmental Solutions Initiative. Also, a campus tour is being offered featuring Dick Amster, Director of Campus Construction. So you'll get to see some of these things that have been mentioned in the various sessions about changes during the pandemic. I know that based on my conversations with so many of you, these are topics of great interest to our MIT alumni community, and I'm sure you will learn a lot as you go to these sessions and hear from these additional experts. Thank you again for your service to MIT and to the alumni community. And don't forget to attend the keynote session later today, One Community Together in Service, featuring President Reif and Corporation Past Association President and Chair of the Corporation Nominating Committee, Eric Caulfield. We'll also have an inspiring lineup of service-oriented students who will share with you their projects as they work to make a better world. So you won't want to miss that, and I want you to continue to enjoy ALC. Thank you so much, and I'll see you in the next Zoom room. Bye now.
Thanks for joining us. And for more information on how to connect with the MIT Alumni Association, please visit our website.